Housing has long been identified as one of Vermont's most important challenges. There simply isn't enough of it, either already existing or being built at prices low and middle income people, in particular, can afford. Reasons for that have included things like the cost of land, the cost of labor and materials, and the permitting process. A housing summit recently held in Arlington delved deep into all of these factors to try and find some potential solutions or pathways forward. One local housing project that's getting attention in Manchester and was discussed also at the Housing Summit in Arlington is one proposed on Depot Street, near the corner of Center Hill Street. There, 3 commercial buildings front a site which is now mostly a parking lot, on town-owned property where, in 2023, a project to create about 40 residences is under consideration. We met up with town manager John O'Keefe, who described what's one of Manchester's most promising prospects at making a dent in the housing crunch in town.
We've already done a lot of studies on this property to figure out what to do. And one of the major proposals, at least in the back part and possibly in the front, is housing. Downtown housing, it's on water, it's on sewer, electrical, data, internet, it's all here. And this parcel is kind of sandwiched between Depot Street, which is a major roadway, and a secondary, what we call a Class 2 roadway, Center Hill. The other sort of landmarks that people might recognize on this side of the property, call that the west side, is the Price Chopper Plaza. And the parcel over here is Manchester House of Pizza, Starbucks, Subway, Pendleton, and the Body Lab gym. So it's kind of a central location, and it's a great opportunity for the community. And so the select board has formed a committee of select board members, residents, select board members, residents, and town employees to work on this particular project. We've also obligated $100,000 of town funds to actually hire somebody to help the town put together a redevelopment plan here. So something that's really going to pop here soon. Partly because we're putting a lot of emphasis into it, and also because it's an emerging opportunity.
So would the housing project include these 3 buildings here that face Depot Street, or would they remain as commercial buildings?
We don't know yet. We did do a study, and it does indicate that these would be practical sites for housing. It is closer to the road. It's a Class 1 state highway. We're also looking at this site for office buildings. Some people have suggested moving Town Hall back down here. There's other opportunities with the private sector to put 9-to-5 office workers in this area. There's a lot of good data about economic development in locating businesses downtown, like office-based businesses, insurance, finance, things like that. So we're not sure yet. Another proposal is to do housing upstairs and in some kind of mixed use downstairs. And then you can see actually right here, there's a little bump out on this parcel, and you could even do some small retail down here, like a gift shop, coffee shop, ice cream shop, things like that. But I think generally speaking, the emphasis is off of retail, because we've got a lot of retail in this particular area, and it's more towards mixed use and definitely housing.
Then we headed up to the other side of the parking lot, where much of the new housing would be constructed.
Based on the preliminary study that we did with Burke and White, the study shows that there's plenty of property down here, especially on the zoning side, in order to build secondary buildings back here. So you can see here, there's 1, 2, 3 buildings. There's a lot of parking here. This was built when Manchester required more parking. So some of the parking is going to have to exist out or be maintained, but this whole site back through here is kind of what we're talking about as far as housing back here. And there's some thought of connecting Depot Street to Center Hill back here, so that the residents that are living back here have access to, of course, the shopping centers on both sides and all the different businesses on Depot Street, and accessing Depot Street, but also might have access to Center Hill, get up to the farmers market, MEMS, and historic Main Street that way.
So would this be workforce affordable type housing like we've been hearing a lot about, or market housing? What would be the plan?
We're not sure yet. I mean, obviously the focus is going to be on affordable and workforce. Whether the plan would require some market units as well in order to in order to try to finance it. We're not sure yet. That's one reason that the select board has authorized $100,000 to really put together an entire package, an entire deal, find the developers, find the businesses, and actually so that when 2023 hits, we're ready to move.
So you want to have a plan in place for it by April of 23 and what would be, if all goes according to plan at that point, then how quickly might that housing be constructed?
Hopefully pretty quickly. I mean, obviously, there's a real need for it here. This one is one that we have other properties that we're thinking about, but this is the one that is really coming back to us so quickly. It's the best opportunity. It's an opportunity where the town could make decisions, financial decisions and redevelopment decisions based on not necessarily how much money we could get out of the site. The site is appraised for or assessed for about $2.6 million. But part of the idea is that we may sacrifice a portion of what we could recover from the site. We've got really nothing into it. One thing that we do have to do is we have to pay off $100,000 related to the installation of an elevator in one of the buildings that came midterm. So there's that cost, but otherwise there's a lot of room here for us to play with different scenarios and ensure that we could do, for example, affordable housing in here.
Seth Bongartz, one of Manchester's state representatives and one of the organizers of the recent housing summit in Arlington, has been following the housing issue. He's hopeful the project on Depot Street will be a step forward in addressing housing for middle-income residents in a downtown location, from where people could easily travel to local jobs and services.
It does address it, and of course it doesn't address it anywhere near in total because the need is so huge, but 40 units is 40 units. And I think, while there's still a lot of thinking to be done and work with consultants to figure out the right mix and how to make this thing pencil, but the idea is to have a mixed use, I'm sorry, not a mixed use, a mixed income project would have everything from some technically low income housing to where I think a lot of us in this area recognize is the even bigger need, perhaps, if it's hard to say that, but of sort of middle income housing, or the missing middle as people call it, and maybe even some truly market rate housing, but to have a mix that just helps a little bit take the pressure off, and maybe can serve as a model for doing more in other places down the road. And this is one of those cases where everything kind of comes together in a way that is perhaps unique, but it's an opportunity. The infrastructure is there, the parking, the entrance, and the town sewer and water. The town actually owns the land, which provides a huge added impetus to making it happen on this site. And it's a site that can accommodate something with a number of units. And the more units you build together, the less expensive the overall cost.
In less than 18 months, by April of 2023, we'll have a clearer idea if this will be making a difference. For the GNAT TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.